What risks are you looking out for in 2018?
So back to your question, Scott, around the risk factors. The biggest risk factor for the entire industry is regulatory, because some people are honest enough to say, wow, I am fascinated, and there are consequences that I just cannot really work out, but I'm fine with that because I believe in the importance of the broad mission, and I will do my best to navigate what is happening, and my project and what I'm doing is really important for the world. So I want to keep working on it. On the other hand, there are people who are paid to pretend that they know what is best for everybody else, and they must impose their views on everybody else, and they must pretend that they know all the consequences, as unimaginable as they are, for the world. And they are called regulators. And unfortunately, that means that they will impose their views, doesn't matter if they are wrong, on these new industries that need to mature, which is a synonym to say they are not in a rapid growth phase anymore. We know what is going on. That is what you call maturity. The blockchain industry is not mature yet, but the regulators are freaking out. They are in a state of panic because they are not controlling things anymore. It used to be the case that barriers to entry to financial markets or other ways of creating wealth were universal and universally enforced. Today, blockchain is lowering or eliminating these barriers, and the gatekeepers don't want the unwashed masses to share the benefit of what they have been protecting for a select few until now. Some of those people are totally honest, but others are really defending the interest of an extremely small number of beneficiaries of world economic model that the blockchain is upending.
David, there's Wayne here has said, this is a global phenomenon. So who's going to determine which regulators we essentially look at? Because the US is going to try to regulate it, the UK, in Asia, and China, Japan. But blockchain essentially is something that is, well, it's decentralized, it's global. So how do you think that's going to play out?
The US has proven to have pretensions of being the global police force of the world, both in waging wars for the past 50 years. Basically, any war in the world was waged by the United States of America. Other wars were civil wars rather than foreign armies fighting. And also, they have shown to be ready to apply irresistible pressure on other nations to serve the U.S. interests. And the best example of this is in peer-to-peer technology, where Kim.com, the founder of Mega Upload, a New Zealand citizen, was arrested at 3 a.m. in the morning when a SWAT team broke down the door of his home because a United States court believed that his system violated copyright. And they used the New Zealand SWAT teams as the executioner of a non-final judicial order. It was mind-blowingly illegal, but they still did it. And the Prime Minister of New Zealand had to apologize after the fact publicly for violating the civil rights of Mr. And so I believe that the United States is going to try it again. So it is going to be up to other jurisdictions to be strong enough that if their regulators want to welcome the blockchain revolution and token sales under frameworks that correspond to the strategies that they want to employ, as a sovereign nation, they shouldn't be forced to do otherwise.
Yeah.
Even though in the community of blockchain, a lot of people are happy to actually say that nation states matter less and less. And that is why there is a veritable jurisdictional arbitrage going on, where token sales happen in Singapore or Switzerland or in any other jurisdiction that at a given time is ready to embrace the radical change that blockchain represents.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Winston's also just mentioned that, you know, in South Korea, of course, they've sort of tried to clamp down a little bit, just making sure that KYC, so know your client, is taking place and that people are actually sharing their details. And if you actually look at most exchanges, they require this now, which I think isn't a bad thing. It's, you know, it essentially, I guess, gets rid of bad actors. But, you know, those sort of regulations are one thing, but really clamping down on the ability for the blockchain to be decentralized and work is something completely different.
There's one other comment on that I think is important, and that history often repeats itself. And what most people don't realize is that America grew from too many feudal controls happening in Europe, and so both people and money moved to Europe, where there was a much freer market. And you know, I fundamentally agree with what both of you said. There will be new countries, there will be new regions, and if America, as an example, doesn't go with the future, then other markets will become, you know, as important in time to come. As I said, history repeats itself.